Thank you so much, Michael, for creating this platform so that I can, share what I love to do in the world. And yes, I've been walking this path since the mid 70s and 1974, I think, around that time. And I was a university student at UCSC and met John Grinder, and I came to NLP by falling in love, right? And I came to NLP before it had a name. So I have been very blessed to be able to participate in the whole journey. That first generation of NLP, the second generation called the new coding, that happened, in the mid 80s with John Grinder and around prerequisites to personal genius, and now in this third generation with Robert Dilts. And thank you so much for honoring my contribution. I feel like community, or that relationship aspect, has always been a flag that I like to carry, as well as sort of honoring the somatic mind, or the body, that in those early days there was a definite focus on the cognitive mind with respect to strategies and such. And always implicitly the body was, certainly represented in terms of my emotions or my sensations. But somatic syntax for me has a lot to do with movement, because we are always in movement, even when we're asleep. The breath is moving, the heart is moving. Yeah. So thank you for that lovely introduction. I feel very blessed. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for that question in terms of, how do I think about my unique contribution to the space of coaching? So, my contribution really started before coaching was the happening thing, right? And I really loved that question because it got me thinking back sort of down at my own trail of how I came to the idea with Robert Dilts around the idea of somatic syntax. So let me say a little bit about that. One of the fundamental principles of NLP is that we're made up of knowledge networks in the body, first of all, right? This is called our nervous system, and that it's distributed throughout the body. And a really beautiful example of that is that everybody has learned to write their name with their right or left hand, right? But the interesting thing is although I didn't learn to write my name with my toes, I can. I didn't learn to write my name with my elbow, but I can, or my head. So the idea that knowledge becomes knowledge because it goes into the muscle. If it's just above the neck, it's only rumor, as they say. So the fact that my body, through this network, can generalize information and make it knowledge in the muscle was always very, very curious to me. And even as far back as looking at language patterns, especially idioms, that things like, I don't know in French, but in English you can say, he kicked the bucket, which means somebody passed away. But you can't say he kicked the green bucket. But when I use an idiom, those kinds of phrases, they're computed in both hemispheres of the brain. So I started to notice when somebody would say something like, wow, that really stirs me up, that some part of their body would actually be making a kind of stirring movement. And I went, aha, there's another conversation. There's another conversation, and that is the somatic conversation. Physical metaphors, Virginia Satir's postures are beautiful examples of, physical metaphors, although they're static postures. I became curious as to if that's a problematic posture in terms of a blamer, for example, how do we start to soften that through the body so that the person can return home to their center? And that is the whole idea around the somatic syntax. How do I use the body itself to teach it how to self-regulate? And that is about self-leadership. Right? How do I lead myself? The moment we're born, we are changing. And so change and transition, I believe, is natural. I mean, this is really life. And in that interaction with the outside world, if it's influencing us, if we're open to that influence, we are in movement, changing and transitioning all the time. I think that quite often we forget that everything is in transition all the time, and some things just change so slowly that we have the illusion that things are solid in a way. And I think especially in this time where there's so much, we are so much in that transition phase, we're having to kind of let go of some stability points, and we haven't yet landed on the other side of that transition, so that the importance of being able to manage myself means not only the cognitive aspects of that leadership, that self-leadership, but the somatic, because that's where the emotions are coming from. That's where, if I get fearful, or if I feel like there's not enough, or I, get angry about life because of it is the way it is right now, those are the moments when I go to the somatic world. And I think it's a very beautiful and practical thing to do, to just have the ability to bring awareness to what is that state of being for me right now. Is this where I want to be? Then can I start to move different aspects of my body, breath, postures, and notice if things start to shift. Does that start to bring me further towards where I want to be? Most of us get locked into, analysis paralysis. We try to analyze our way out of something. But the offering is already from the body. Why not go to the body to bring awareness, to go do a little calibrating? Where do I want to go? Do a little self-adjustment and go, does this give me some breath space and some movement? And then can I find a way to stabilize it and practice it? I think it's a very practical little process that we can all do. How do we benefit? Well, first of all, we all have a body. And we certainly benefit when we get kind of confined, mentally, and trying to always solve the problem through the mental, cognitive aspect. So as a coach, it gives me another set of tools. And then it's not about going, this set of tools is better than that set of tools, but it says, as a coach, how many tools can I actually sort of have in my tool library that are useful. And so when I think about the somatic, I go to that idea of the third generation NLP, really, really landing in the space of embodiment. How do I stay embodied and, as Robert would say, be a complete whole on, or Gregory Bateson might say, this unit of mind, and not just this cognitive unit of mind, but this whole system that produces mind. So I would say, first of all, it gives you another set of skills and another set of tools and another space that you can focus your attention. And many times the problems that are presented, certainly in health coaching, it's clear, that makes a big difference, the somatic. because the signals are quite often sent through the somatic. When a person comes in and says, well, I'm caught in these emotions and I can't get out, or these triggers in the world, trigger certain responses in me and I don't have choice. Those are all presentations from the somatic world. Go to the somatic world and try to adjust and soothe down and learn how to welcome, and the system will adjust itself. That's the beautiful thing about the somatic mind, is that the brain, when I'm thinking cognitively, works in a step-by-step system, right? The body is a whole series of relationships. It's not about the content, it's about the relationship of the parts. And when I bring my awareness to that, quite often the system can really settle down. It knows how to take care of itself if, in fact, we create the space for it to do that, for the body to do that. So I think, the health benefits, the embodiment benefits, the ability to have more self-awareness of what's happening in the larger system of self first. And that has a lot to do with self-leadership. I think I'll start with talking a little bit about archetypic movement. For example, in archetypic movement, to take a step back means to be reflecting. To take a step forward means to take action, even in dance, So that ability just in movement to take the step back, to reflect, to take the step forward, to engage. And the movement from side to side, archetypically, is about integration of something, maybe two parts of the system, learning how to chat with each other better. So that would be kind of one space. Another space will be the somatic syntax. How do I take an already positive state of being and make more of it through just using my body? How do I take a state of being that I find not so useful and through my body destabilize it and find an edge of something new to bring in? Another is, how do I take something and generalize it into the future by just using my body in a way to do that? Also, we will do something like some processes like the dancing score. When I talk about the dancing score, I'm saying what that is about is, how do I take this chain of events in time from something that causes a symptom. I know I have an outcome and that will have effects in my life. Can I dance that sequence in a way and allow my body to present what's needed in that space of resource in between. Here I am, cause and symptom. Here's where I want to be, outcome and effect. And can I literally create the space for my body to allow the resource to emerge? I think that'll be definitely a part of what we're doing. And then also getting the concept as a trainer or as a coach that I can almost dance any technique, that I can physicalize and generalize from a concept, like the score model. It's just a model. But what happens when I bring my body is it becomes alive. It's not just a concept. Also, some of the archetypic processes, for example, the hero's journey. We can dance the journey. So those would be some of the kind of ideas that I think that we will be playing with and emerging in the group. So I hope I touched on the pieces that are going to be most relevant for, yeah. What I would like to say to everybody is my dad had a saying, and he used to say, life is a ticket to the greatest show on earth. Don't miss the show. Use your ticket. And that means use all these beautiful assets that we have called unit of mind, the beautiful cognitive mind, also the beautiful somatic mind we have to enhance the relationship between myself and also enhance the relationship with others and our world in general. I think that would be my message, Let's be embodied beings so that we have ways to really, really manage, these amazing things that happen inside of us, both in a creative way and in that non-creative way, so that we can be really present to life. Got it. Ciao.